Remember Janda said, in the presence of pain and or other negative stimuli, things happen in very typical patterns. Some muscles get inhibited. Doesn't mean they're off, okay? Poor choice of words. Inhibited doesn't mean off. Muscles only turn off when you're dead, okay? It means they don't turn on as efficiently. Facilitated means they're much easier to turn on, okay? We got that from the PNF. It's something made easier. Inhibited doesn't mean off. Turn the light switch on doesn't mean we're turning it something that's off. Poor choice of words on my part. Inhibited just means they're like bystanders. They don't like playing in the game as much. They're sitting on the bench, but they can work. All right. But now understanding the crosses, because one thing that's very important that I want you to understand is that I've said the semantics. If you don't want to call this upper and lower cross, you call it whatever you want. Use the words, the terms that work for you. But if there's a level of validation to this question about the crosses, think here. Inhibited, activation. Inhibited, activation, lower trap and serratus. Abdominals inhibited. Glute medius and glute max inhibited. On this slide where you see inhibited, that's where the typical family of activation exercises happen. If they're inhibited, you want to bring them back up. Always works this way. Facilitated, think about where soft tissue work is really uncomfortable. Think about where you typically find people that need to stretch, or they feel tight if they need to stretch. Upper trap, I'll go around the room and dig my thumb into your trap. Most people will cringe. Here, lower back, rectus femoris, iliopsoas. These are typically areas that soft tissue work is very uncomfortable because these muscles are on all the time. The question is, where does the crosses come from? This typical pattern is where the crosses come from. When you assess or you have come to the determination that someone is weak, all of these will appear weak. Okay, so let's take it a different direction. I have pain in my shoulder, okay, and I can no longer express force production. Is it because my muscle is weak and I need more strength, specific adaptation to oppose demand, or do I need to get rid of the pain and then all of a sudden my strength is back? That's a big issue I see in common thought. Just because I'm weak, I can't express force doesn't always mean that I need to lift weights, okay? So take that doorstop. Pain is the doorstop, so the door won't go. If something is overworked, like what you're suggesting in your upper traps, I'm not sure that is a weak muscle that requires strengthening. I think you need to take out the doorstop. And that goes back to the principles that we talked about, mobility before stability. When we try to normalize these crosses, you will normalize the crosses first by turning down the facilitated patterns. And that's where your soft tissue work comes from. So let's say something is non-painful and you send them to a brilliant chiropractor that does ART and it's on their hamstring. So they determine that the hamstring is facilitated, it's overworked. So they're going to strip it out, they're going to break their adhesions and do what ART is a fantastic tool to do. Before they did it, they tested it and their hamstring was X. Okay? They do what they do and all of a sudden the hamstring is X plus 5. It can then exhibit strength. And if the muscle's on constant tension, then the muscle's constantly contracted and you can't get quality force production when those cross bridges are already kind of tight. They're already mildly contracted all the time. So if you can restore that tissue quality, you may find that strengthening may not be as necessary. We talked about that with stability. You may not need stability. You might already have it, but you can't get into it because mobility is holding everything back. So we're talking about mobility issues here, etc. Now, I would be very cautious in strengthening a muscle that has poor tissue quality.